I was working, I was playing a character that was amazing. I got 50,000 letters a week. Girls would take off their jewelry and send it to me in the mail. And what I learned from my fan mail is that Jewish girls do not send jewelry through the mail.
They hold on to it.
They hold on to it for dear life.
Henry Winkler became famous in a way that's almost impossible in today's Hollywood. In 1974, he was cast in a TV sitcom called Happy Days. The show ran for 10 years and was, for a time, the most watched program in the entire country. As a result, Henry became the most famous television star in the world. He was Arthur Fonzarelli, a cool greaser with a black leather jacket who could get anything he wanted by snapping his fingers. Everyone called him the Fonz.
Okay, let's try this one here. Now watch me. Hey!
Henry Winkler was nominated for an Emmy 3 times while on Happy Days. He never won. Still, if you'd asked anyone in 1976 who the Fonz was, you'd likely get an A. That was horrible. Still, if you asked anyone in 1976 who the Fonz was, you'd likely get an A. No, that's still not it. A. This is depressing. I think it turns out I'm not cool. Then, life after Happy Days, that was more of a struggle. With good acting roles unavailable to him, Henry started producing. He did land supporting roles in Adam Sandler movies like The Waterboy and Little Nicky. Then came quality TV shows like Arrested Development and Parks and Recreation. And then, in 2016, the HBO show Barry came along. Show creator Bill Hader cast Henry in a juicy dramatic role. He played Gene Cousineau, an acting teacher who becomes a mentor to Bill Hader's Barry. In this scene, Gene discovers that his acting protege kills people for a living.
You did a horrible thing, but I see your pain. It is the same pain that you came to me with, fresh out of the army, a lost soul. No one to tell you your worth. I took you in. Not only did I teach you to be a good actor, I taught you to be a good human being. And this is how you repay me? By killing me?
40 years after his nominations for Happy Days, Henry won his first ever Emmy Award for Barry at the age of 72. He still surprises audiences. Henry also has an enviable reputation as the nicest man in Hollywood. And I learned he's a great storyteller. My guest today is Henry Winkler. I'm your host, Ben Mankiewicz, and this is Talking Pictures, a podcast about movies, about memories, and all the stuff that happens in between. Turner Classic Movies makes this podcast with the streaming service Max, where you can see some of the movies mentioned in this episode. I went to Henry Winkler's home in West Los Angeles for this episode. His house is filled with books and artwork, and he has 2 dogs I immediately bonded with. Before we started talking, Henry got a phone call congratulating him on the great reviews for his latest book, Detective Duck, The Case of the Missing Tadpole. It's the 40th book he's written. So we began by talking about why he writes books, because it doesn't come easily. So what I am struck by in your books, and this is book 40 with you and Lynn?
This is book 40.
And that's an amazing accomplishment for a guy who was not interested in writing a book. Like, you had to be
in reading.
You had to twist your arm to get you to do it.
Well, you know why I did it? Because it was a time filler. Because I couldn't get hired for my dream as an actor in 2000 because he is so funny. He's such a good guy. he was the Fonz. So, you know.
So that was existing in 2000, the same as it was in 1985. It's just you
Yes.
kept, even when you'd break through and have something,
Yes.
it just reverted back to
It did.
he's the Fonz.
It did.
So you spent a fair amount of time then, totally understandably, exhausting people, exhausting yourself probably about how, look, I'm not the Fonz. That was just a character I
No.
played for 10 years.
All I did was, I see myself as the toy. When I was growing up, there was a toy. It was plastic. It looked like a clown or a cowboy, and you blew it up, and there was sand at the bottom, and you punched it, and it went down and came right back to center. Like I think the next version was a Weeble Wobble.
That's right. Yeah.
I saw myself as the Weeble Wobble. That you go down, you get right back up, you keep moving forward. And, my lawyer, Skip Brittenham III, said, you sit at the table long enough, the chips come to you. I don't know if that is universally true. It sure was true for me.
But you didn't even want to write book one.
I didn't. It was, I couldn't get hired in 2000. I went to a man named Alan Berger, who is the godfather of every book we've written. And he said, write books for children about your dyslexia. I said, I can't do that. I'm dyslexic. And he said, I'll introduce you to Lynn Oliver. She knows everything about children's literature. We met, we hatched Hank Zipser, and it went from, they gave us a contract because we were celebrities, She had an organization with 25,000 members, and I was an actor. They gave us a contract for 4. Lovely, nice.
Yeah.
Write 4, go on your way. We wrote 28, and the 28 turned into 40. 4 different series.
So, but let me ask you, when was the dyslexia worst for you? I don't mean the
Yesterday.
But I mean,
You never get over it.
really. I mean, it's just
Never.
just as frustrating now
Today,
as when you were.
I'm
10.
telling you.
Wow.
You know how I know what my left arm is? By making a left turn, the arm that goes out the window is left.
And if
I
you-
have to look every time. Yesterday, I was on Ventura Boulevard. I was looking to make a right, and I had to think, okay, now I'm coming up to Ventura Boulevard. If I go this way, this is right. Okay. I have to think about it every time.
that's got to
And I'm going to be 79 years old, and I'm still figuring out left from right.
be incredibly anxiety inducing when you're
is.
driving. Yeah.
It is. It's frustrating. It's humiliating. It is scary sometimes. I would, driving to the set of Barry, I would call the the second assistant director, and Chablis, I think her name was. And I would have her on the phone, and she'd say, okay, where are you? I'm here. Okay, you're in the absolute wrong direction, and you're heading to Palm Springs.
So, we're making this podcast is for TCM and Max HBO.
Yes.
So, why didn't they get you a driver?
I never thought of having a driver. I always thought, I can get there, and then my car is there when I want to go home,
Yeah.
and good luck to me.
Right. Good luck getting home. But
Yeah.
so
But I did find a great taco stand down by
Palm Springs.
Tito's Tacos
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
on Washington Boulevard.
Yeah. And
Yeah, going to Sony. I'd never seen it and never actually stopped for a taco before.
so getting lost was like, well, I'm hungry. I'm frustrated.
Yeah,
I'll go to Tito's Tacos, and it's
and I was surprised.
quite good.
My tongue had a party.
There are upsides.
The
to
only
it.
other taco that came into my life, I like Taco Bell.
Oh, I love Taco Bell.
I love Taco Bell.
Hugely underrated.
I have no idea what's in a Taco Bell,
Yeah.
but man, is it delish.
And people, it's commonly disparaged, and I think it's just foolish.
Do you know what those people are missing out?
Oh my God, it's so good.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about 1973.
Yes.
Whenever you got on an airplane.
Yes. September 18th, 1973, 10 o'clock in the morning, American Airlines. Sat next to Perry King, who I was in the Lords of Flatbush with.
He was heading out there too.
He was heading out there at the same time.
But you'd already wrapped Lords of Flatbush.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
But it took a year. We finished it like the day before, September 16th or 17th. And that was like months after we thought we wrapped it. They redid the ending.
So Perry King is an interesting guy to mention, and we'll get to your 1973 in a minute, because I'm given to understand, at least according to Sylvester Stallone, that's the guy who replaced Richard Gere.
I thought I was.
I don't think Richard Gere would have played, Butchie Weinstein. Just based on...
Maybe not. But I think I always thought that I went to audition because they fired somebody.
Yeah, it may be.
My entire myth is now out the window.
Stallone's story is that it was Perry King.
Oh, so I replaced who? Shmuel?
Yeah, you replaced, right, totally.
Shmuel Greenberg.
You replaced Richard Gerstein.
I only met Richard Gere once. He was very warm.
Stallone's quote is that Richard Gere has hated him ever since.
Stallone is a good friend.
Yeah, I know.
I love him, and I admire him.
You knew when you met him, getting back to 1973, you knew there was something special about that guy.
Absolutely. He was a poet. He's a philosopher. And he was.
And you knew he was a writer then,
he told me that he showed me where he writes in the cubicle in that apartment on Lexington Avenue, and he painted his windows black so he would never be distracted by time.
Wow, that is focus.
I'm telling you.
Wow.
Well, look what the man did.
Yeah.
That was 3 or 4 actual series of movies.
No, I mean
out of one brain.
He, and the story about Stallone that I continue to be amazed by is he basically had no money. I mean, he had as much money as you had from making Lords of Flatbush.
We made $2,000 for a year's work.
And that's bad. And so he, has a thing where I think it was Paradise Alley. I might be getting the title.
No, that's right.
Right. So and they don't make that because they don't like his agent, Henry Winkler, and Bob Chartoff. They don't make that movie, but they say to him as he's leaving, if you have something else, he goes into audition for them.
Right.
And if you have something else, and he says, and then he works on Rocky.
Right.
And he comes back to them, and then the studio for Rocky says, okay, we love it, and we're going to pay you. We'll pay you, I think, $250,000 in mid-70s for this script that you've written. You have no money.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, no, not if you're going to make somebody else Rocky.
No, what happened was he drove out here. His car broke down on Sunset Boulevard. All of his clothing, all of his possessions. He was going to have, he rented an apartment on El Camino, somewhere off of Sunset Boulevard.
In Hollywood.
Yeah, in Hollywood. Called me up. He said, hey, my car broke down. You gotta help me. So I said, okay. I went and got him. I got the first Audi ever made, which I used as a planter 2 weeks later. But I picked him up, took him to the apartment. He said, hey, I got a script here. I said, okay. I took it to ABC. They bought it. They said, well, we have to replace the writer. I said, okay. I went back to Sly. I said, Sly, good news. Here's all the money. They sold the script. We sold it to ABC. Bad news. They want to replace you as the writer. Don't let them do that to me and me. Okay, I go back to ABC. I said, hi, here's all the money back. I need that script. And thankfully, I had a little juice because I was the Fonz at the time. They gave me the script back. I gave it to him like a year or 2 later. Rocky.
I want to be your manager.
Fight said I don't need no manager.
Listen, kid.
Hey, look, Mick. I need your help about 10 years ago, right? 10 years ago?
Right.
You never helped me, no. You didn't care.
If you wanted help, why didn't you ask? Why didn't you just ask me, kid?
Look, I asked, but you never heard nothing.
I didn't know that story at all. That's fantastic, because then the same thing happened again when he sold it to another studio, they still said, look, man, here's the basic thing, $250,000, somebody else, or if you want to make it, we'll give you $10,000 for it and an acting fee. And he bet on himself.
Yes, he
and
did.
that
Yes,
is
he did. He constantly bet on himself. And still today on Tulsa King, he is like a fine wine. He's wonderful in that show.
So that September 18th, 1973, American Airlines.
Yeah, 2:45 in the afternoon, terra firma, Los Angeles.
You had you gave yourself a month.
I did. I had $1,000 from making commercials in New York. And I had...
Do you have a place to stay?
No, but I remember that somebody I went to Emerson College with, Stephanie Axelrod, very adorable person, said, if you ever come to LA, you can stay with me for a little while. And I was too scared to leave. So I overstayed my welcome. I literally...
So that means you could save money. At least you didn't have to...
I saved money. I have an idiosyncratic relationship with money. My father lived above his means. I saw him cry at the desk in the living room of our apartment in New York City, talking to Carl, his friend, asking for money. Carl, I heard through the phone on the other end, said, "Harry, I cannot give you any more." And my father was desperate. I never wanted to be in that situation ever.
So you're still frugal? That's still...
I am frugal. The rest of my family is not.
I understand. Yeah. You're frugal but generous. It's a tough...
I am generous.
Yeah.
I am generous, but when it comes to me, like this is the craziest thing. I buy a new pair of shoes. I buy a pair of pants, and I'm going to save it for a special occasion that never comes. That never comes. I never actually wear the new shoes. And my daughter says to me, "Dad, those are beautiful shoes, exactly like the ones you just bought. Like a few months ago, a year ago."
That you also haven't worn. So you're going to LA for giving yourself 30 days because you're a commercial actor. You've made some money in New York. You're on stage in New York. A month is not very long.
No.
How'd that month go? This, by the way, what you're about to describe is, I believe, the most successful month in the history of acting. That's what I could well.
I was touched by a being. I don't know. A higher power. I land. I go right to my agent's office on South Beverly Boulevard with my bags. She said, "It's going to be very hard to sell you." And I said, "Well, that is a $1,000, 3,000-mile mistake. And you don't say that to a short, vibrating Jew. You don't say that to a neurotic who is going to now shake in the corner. It's going to be hard to sell me. Why didn't you say that to me before I left?" She said, "Don't you want to find a place to stay?" I said, "No. Where is my first audition?" She said, "I don't have it yet." I call Stephanie Axelrod. I go to her one-room apartment. I live in this tiny hallway that is behind a door that leads to the bathroom. I sleep on the floor on the cushions from her fold-out bed. I all of a sudden get a call, go to CBS in the Valley. "You're going to audition for the Mary Tyler Moore Show." I rented a green Capri. I like green, my favorite color. Drive to CBS, find the office, sit down. I now show this man, Ed Weinberger.
Oh, yeah.
He
had a period. Ed with a period.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Funny, cantankerous, wonderful.
Producer
of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. I now show him all the pictures of the plays I did in drama school. I have never met anybody not so interested in pictures from a drama school before in my life. But anyway, he said, look, I don't have a script. I only have one line. Please pass the salt. Your road is date. I take a cup of pencils.
From his
empty it
desk.
On his desk. Empty out the pencils, pick up a pencil, cling the glass. Excuse me. Do not bother yourself. If you get a moment, could you just pass the salt? By the time I got back to my vestibule, by the time I got back to that little hallway, I had the job.
What possessed you to do that?
I could do in my professional life things I could not do in my real life.
'Cause,
I went with whatever my imagination was. I wanted to be perfect in my real life, so I never ventured out very far.
Okay, so you land this gig on the Mary Tyler
Yes.
Moore Show. That would make the month worth it all by itself. It's a very funny episode. I watched it
Thank
yesterday.
you.
It was very, I mean, I'd seen it years ago, of course.
And it was
but
amazing
Yeah.
to be in the presence. They were the friends of that time. They
you're-
were the
you're there. Everybody, it's a party at Mary's house. Rhoda's there. Mary's there.
Betty White,
Betty White.
Ed Asner, who then later on played my dad on Royal Pains. Amazing.
And you know, but I mean, and Murray is there, and Ted
Murray.
Baxter comes over. Like everybody's
Everybody.
there. Everybody's there. And you're just there.
Yeah.
So okay, so that would make the month successful, but there's
Really?
more.
So then that weekend, I'm invited to a party, and I meet a casting director who said, "Oh, you're Henry." And I thought, how could she possibly know? I've been here for 3 minutes. But that's how quickly your name goes if you do a good job. And apparently I did.
You definitely did.
Marsha Kleinman, that was her name, the casting person. Now, the next week, my agent said, go to Paramount, and there's a new show. I walk in. Everybody is famous. Everybody I see in the room is famous. I've seen them on TV. I have hair down on my shoulders. It's my turn. I walk into the room. There are 11 people. Millie Gussie, the head of casting, behind this wooden chiseled desk. Gary Marshall, Tom Miller, Eddie Milkus, and 11 other guys and women. And
Gary Marshall's the clue here.
Gary Marshall is I didn't know this yet, but would become my mentor and my guru. I audition. I have 6 lines. I changed my voice, threw the script up in the air, and on my birthday, October 30th, 1973, when I had to get back on the plane because I ran out of money, they said, would you like to play this role? And that was the Fonz.
Come here. I'm gonna do something for you, Cunningham, I never did for anybody before. I'm gonna teach you the secret of being tough.
Wow, you don't think I could ever
Hey,
learn
who
that?
told you to talk?
I'm sorry, Fonz.
That's the secret.
What? I think I missed it.
How did you do something special in there? I mean, you threw the script up in the air. Like, what did you do to get that character?
What did I do? I just changed my voice. I did the 4 lines, threw the script up in the air, sauntered out of the room.
What were the 4? Give me a line. Give me something, maybe something close, even if you can't come up with it.
Hey, Richie, from now on, I will do the talking to chicks.
And there's nothing in there that tells you to talk like that. That's
Nothing at all.
Yeah.
There was nothing also when I looked at Pasquale, the man reading with me, I said to him, don't you look at me like that. And I don't know where that came from.
That's not even on the page.
That's not on the page.
That's so great. So, and I know that the 10 years of Happy Days were generally happy times.
They were completely happy. I was working. I was playing a character that was amazing. I got 50,000 letters a week. Girls would take off their jewelry and send it to me in the mail. And what I learned from my fan mail is that Jewish girls do not send jewelry through the mail.
They hold on to it.
They hold on to it for dear life.
We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, Henry Winkler opens up about trying to break free from the Fonz.
I thought I was going to beat the system. I thought the Fonz is so popular. I am on top of the mountain, and you cannot beat the system.
The success of Happy Days launched Henry Winkler's career. Fans loved his character. I try to avoid using this word, but the Fonz really was legitimately iconic in television history. After Happy Days, Henry wanted to grow as an actor. He had studied at the Yale School of Drama, and his background was in dramatic work. We talked about how he struggled to get the roles he wanted. Happy Days is this, as you say, it was a great experience. You met Ron Howard and all these other actors. You were close. Gary Marshall's your
We
mentor.
still are, yeah.
Right,
Everybody who is alive, we are still close.
which doesn't happen all the time.
That is true.
Yeah. So I want to ask the question, and I know you'll answer it appropriately because it doesn't. It's not like you're not. Well, we know how grateful you are. You're a grateful person in general. You're grateful for the 10 years you spent at Happy Days, but you went to Yale Drama School. You had dreamed. Your profession was being an actor. It's what you love, and that success of that show. I mean, you are the definition of what can happen with typecasting.
Right.
Right. I mean, it.
I thought I was going to beat the system. I thought the Fonz is so popular. I am on top of the mountain, 126 countries, all of that male, and you cannot beat the system.
Happy Days ended in 1984, and basically from 1984 to 1996, you weren't on. You did a made-for-TV movie, which was important in
Right.
1991, where you actually, I think, thought, "Ooh, I'm better.
I'm a better actor.
Yeah.
What is interesting is
That's Absolute Strangers.
yes, Absolute Strangers, about a real story.
A real story. It's an abortion movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
So it's a big, important thing, and you thought you delivered a good performance. But and you did, by the way.
Thank
but
you.
other than that, you were nowhere on a movie screen
No,
in 12 years.
no.
And you had to think, man, I might not. I can't shake this Fonz thing.
It was really difficult. And that's when Skip Brittenham III, my lawyer, said to me, "Hey, we'll start a production company." And I said, "I can't do that because I'm dyslexic. I don't know anything about business. I don't know anything. I literally do not know anything outside of what I know as an actor." He said, "You'll learn." And I went through 2 partners. And the third was, you're not supposed to say anything really bad about somebody who died. So the third was a strange duck. But we came up with a show, and part of my compensation for the Fonz was I could bring ABC a show. If they liked it, they would put it on.
Yeah, First Look, they call it.
First Look.
Yeah.
And so the first show I did was MacGyver. And then we ran for 7 years. They just couldn't kill it. ABC wasn't sure, but it kept the audience from Sunday Night Football. And so it just became a hit. And then all these years later, CBS developed it again, and it ran for 5 years.
That's really great. And all from not being able to get away from the Fonz. It's the only reason that ever happened.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Your inability to get work after Happy Days because of Happy Days, I think is made more compelling by the fact that you made 3 movies during Happy Days, and 4 technically if you count Lord's Flatbush, which probably came out maybe just before or just
They
after.
came out May of the next year after I got Happy Days.
So yeah, you figure that and then you make this movie Heroes, right, in 1977.
Right.
You play a Vietnam veteran,
Right.
which had to be for Happy Days fans like, what is this?
Okay, so that was a major mistake. Not that I did Heroes with Sally Field and Harrison Ford, but that I didn't get that I went too far away from what the audience was either used to or liked about what I did. And it was too big a leap.
Yeah, we got to get used to seeing the Fonz there, and it's just audiences we're not ready for that.
Nor are they ever.
That's right.
You know, you have to really be respectful of, if you're going to ask them to watch you on television for 10 years and come back week after week after week, you cannot just defy gravity.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, that's true. It's now, thankfully, it's less true because television, the nature of what is television, is so totally different now.
Right.
But I try not to use the word iconic at TCM because we've beaten it to death. Everything's iconic, except the Fonz is iconic. Like you, that was a legitimate. That was you were probably the most famous actor, perhaps, in the world in 1977.
It was. I was not aware of it. I knew that I could get into the movies and not have to wait online. I knew that we went to a Lakers game and my wife was driving and made a wrong turn and cops stopped us and she yelled at me. She said, "Show your face, show your face." And I leaned over and the cop went, "Oh, I am so sorry. Enjoy."
Enjoy the game.
Yeah.
So then another movie, the one after that, 78, The One and Only.
Oh my God. Now, The One and Only was a dramedy. And it was, to me, so sad and emotional. And we never made that movie. The great Carl Reiner took over the movie, and it was an out-and-out comedy. And
that's not the movie you signed up for.
That was not the movie I signed up for, except that I was privileged to be directed by the great Carl Reiner.
Yeah, definitely. And then, of course, the other movie you make during the run is this giant success that everyone who's seen it loves and cherishes, right? Night Shift, Ron Howard's.
Oh, my God. So Ron Howard leaves the show after 7 years. He leaves Happy Days.
People thought he was insane.
He calls me on the phone, which is a payphone by the Donuts on stage 19. He said, it's going to hit the press in about 10 minutes. I want you to know before.
Because you're friends.
I'm leaving. And my heart stopped. I said, "You're leaving? My God, we're the yin and the yang. You're leaving. Oh my God." And then I said, "This is your dream. You have talked to me about this since the beginning.
Of directing.
You've wanted to do this since you were old enough to think about it. Go and just be great." And then I thought, it's over.
Right. The show can't go on without Richie.
Oh my God. Scott Baio stepped in and became a wonderful acting partner. But I think it was like 251 episodes, Ron came back. And he said, "I'm going to California. I'm going to be a writer. This is it. Goodbye, Milwaukee." And I walked him to the door in the Cunninghams, and I started to cry. And I cried saying goodbye to Ron. It was incredible. 50 years later, Ron's daughter, Bryce, our goddaughter, her husband, Seth, unbelievable actor, their 2 children, my daughter Zoe, born a few months after Bryce, also redhead, her children, her husband, all sitting at the same dining room table here. And he said, "When you said, go and be great, you took the world off my shoulders." And I said, "It took you 50 fucking years to tell me that? You couldn't have told me that then?"
You made me emotional with you, that he told you that.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah. how come, like, Night Shift is great?
Night Shift is great.
So why
So he-
didn't that at least tell people, oh, look, he can be
I'll tell you
yeah.
why. I'll tell you why. He came to me. He said, look,
Night Shift's 82, by the way.
right, Warner Brothers is going to give me $6 million to make the movie if you do it. If I can get you in it and you can play either role. I said, okay, now I've played the Fonz for 10 years. I'm going to play Richie.
Because the Michael Keaton part is more fun.
Flamboyant.
Right, yeah,
So I took Chuck,
Right.
who was Richie.
right.
And he was worried because he said, the crew has been doing this longer than I've been alive. Are they going to listen to me? I said, yes, they will. And I'm telling you, I would ask him a question. He said, let me think about that. And everybody stopped and waited to see what Ron was going to say because he was just powerful and in charge.
Were you impressed by Michael Keaton? It was his first movie?
Impressed within 30 seconds of his audition in my house in Toluca Lake with Ron. We have met every young actor in Hollywood. He came in 30 seconds. I looked at Ron. Ron looked at me, and it was like boom.
This is all right. Guess this is where I'm going to be working. I'm your new partner. Swish! They're going crazy in the arena. They can't believe it. It's unbelievable. This is great. What's our job? We'd like drive around, pick up stiffs, or what? Is that what we're supposed to do? Hey, Chuck, who's this? Wife?
Fiance.
Oh, nice frame.
Same thing happened when Robin Williams came to do Mork. There was nobody who would play this role. We start rehearsing Monday. It's now Wednesday morning. This very shy young man comes with the casting agent. He's going to play Mork. Hello. Hello. And then he picks up the script. And it was like a volcano went off in the stage 19. And all I thought about was, you are not going to stand toe-to-toe with that imagination. Get out of his way and know your lines. Wow.
But that takes a little self-confidence to know that, like, I don't need to upstage this guy.
I don't need to
yeah.
upstage him. It doesn't matter. This is like otherworldly. No pun intended.
And that's Robin Williams. Same for Michael Keaton then in Night Shift. You're like, I don't need to, this guy.
I don't. I just listened to him. We were on the subway. A man comes and plays the saxophone in my face. I'm supposed to give him money. I said, you know what? Everybody just gives him money. Maybe I'll just put my wallet in the horn. And then Michael said, hey, write him a check.
That's one great idea on top of another great idea.
I'm telling
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
That's how it happens.
So I know you want to talk about this, so that you see your performance in Heroes and you're like, I hadn't figured it out yet. And even Night Shift, I guess you think you hadn't quite figured it out yet. As great as that.
Night Shift, I was okay with having filled out Chuck, but
you see even like you see The Water Boy and you see Scream. By the way, you have like a couple scenes in Scream. They're so
Right.
good. You know,
now Scream. So here is a great lesson. I do Scream. Bless his soul.
Wes Craven.
Wes Craven, the director. I have had sushi with him now several times.
There you go.
He says, hey, I got a small part. Want to do it? I said, you bet. I do it.
Is that your first death scene?
My first death scene.
Yeah.
And as I am covered in blood with tubes up and down my clothing, he walks over, he leans over, and he said, do you think it would be a little more excruciating? I said, yes, I do. He said, do you think you would scream a little louder? Yes, I do. We did it again. I got dressed, I got clean, I got tubed up. And then he spent 2.5 hours shooting the reflection of Ghostface
In your
in
eye.
my eyeball.
Yeah. It's quite a shot.
Oh my God. Then they say to me, can't put your name on the movie. You're not going to be in the credits. You were the Fonz. You're going to knock the balance of the horror off.
These are these young actors. We want it to be their movie.
Yeah. And then they have a screening for a test for the audience to write on little cards what they liked, what they didn't like. I got applause when I walked on the screen.
Yeah.
They then called me up and said, "Would you do press?" I said, "Yeah, okay, of course."
So, two more questions.
Yeah.
Because I don't think we talked quite enough about Barry, and like that was it. So like Barry 2018, right? I think for when Barry shows up on the air, something like that.
2016.
2016.
Because 2018 is like just the beginning. I won the Emmy. Then we go back for the second season, and then we are shut down by COVID.
So basically, what do we got?
Basically, we have like an honor that I was asked to be in that project.
So 32 years after Happy Days
Right.
ends, and these stops and starts. I mean, we have Adam Sandler rescues you for a bit at
Yes.
some point. So how does Barry happen? Who calls you?
So I get I'm at an estate planning meeting at our business manager with my wife. And the only thing I understood from all of that legalese, the children get it all. And then we're driving, and I get a call. The only call that I really got from an agency I was with at that time. And they say, "You're on a short list." HBO. Never worked for them. Bill Hader. Watched him for 7 years on Saturday Night Live. Is Dustin Hoffman on that short list? Because if he is, I'm not going in, because he's an Academy Award winner. And they said no. I said, okay.
Why does that come into your head?
Because short. And I thought,
short, nebbishy Jew, right?
actors.
Right.
And, he's so brilliant. Then I get the script. My son Max is here. He directs me in the audition.
Here,
Upstairs. I go in the next day, do everything he told me. I make Bill Hader laugh.
Bill and Alec are there at the audition.
Bill,
Just Bill.
not Alec. All of a sudden, he gets up to do the scene with me. Oh my God. Now I'm standing next to oh my God. Now you wait a long time, too long for that neurotic short Jew that we talked about earlier. And I think I'm off their radar. Hey, want to come and play? Bill calls me. I wrote 2 scripts, 2 scenes last night. Want to come in? Oh, okay. Now my son directs me on the phone.
This is another audition.
Another second audition. I email it to Max. He directs me on the phone. I go in. Alec is there. I make Bill laugh. Alec smiles. That's about as much as you're going to get from Alec. He's very close to the vest. I wait a long time. And then finally, I get the part. And I am on a journey that is, I don't even know what to say that I was part of that. I know you killed Janice. So you have 2 choices. Come with me to the station, turn yourself in, or fucking die.
It feels like for the first time that now there's a whole generation of people who will see you and they're like Gene Cousineau.
Yeah.
Not the Fonz.
No.
Right.
And who watched Barry? I'm telling you, cowboys from Idaho. You would never think they would be the love Jim Barry.
So if you were to ask me about something that made me cry, and it's not a movie, but the end of the 3rd season of Barry, weeping. I remember where I was sitting.
Amazing.
Just amazing. And amazing that, because we had Bill as a guest on this podcast, and Bill, that Alec and Bill, they were put together.
Yes.
Yeah, like you'd think they were friends since they were 8.
No.
Yeah, crazy.
And then they were about to leave the meeting, and one of them said, a hitman who wants to be an actor. And they both sat down.
So you do that second audition, and Alec close to the vest, Bill laughs, and then long wait, and then who calls?
Bill
What?
said, I've been thinking about you. Would you like to play this part? I said, I would.
Pretty great day.
Pretty great. Oh, I would just want to say, if there are actors sitting here, unless you actually cannot connect to the material, just go to work, because you never know.
We're taking another quick break. When we return, Henry Winkler answers our Super 8 and talks about his love of James Dean. And we're back. Time for our Super 8, where we ask our guests a series of set questions about movies they've watched, movies they've loved, and movies they'll never forget. Henry,
Yes.
what's your most memorable movie watching experience?
Okay. I love going to the movies. Stacy loves going to the movies. I love sitting in that theater with popcorn and Junior Mints.
Good call.
And the first movie I ever cried in a movie theater where I thought, oh my God, this is embarrassing, but is James Dean, Rebel Without a Cause.
In a theater?
When
You saw it?
Sal Mineo,
Like, you saw this
I
as a
saw
kid?
it in the theater in Carmel, New York. When Sal Mineo gets shot, I lost it.
Yeah.
The other movie was City of God, made about there's the gangs in Rio de Janeiro. And you can only watch this movie no later than 11 o'clock in the morning.
Because it's 2
Because you need like the rest of the day, maybe the week,
to recover.
to recover from this emotional journey that you go on in this movie.
What movie did you love in high school?
What movie? Oh, I took a girl named Shelley out for New Year's Eve, and we saw The Alamo
With John Wayne.
with John Wayne and
Directed by
Richard
John Wayne.
Widmark,
Yeah.
and in CinemaScope.
You are sending me to safety.
Flocka, you have an important name. You know 1,000,000 words and how they should be used. I'm sending you to fight your war, to talk up a howling mob. I'll stay here and hit a lick. I hope you can drive a mule.
That was pretty great.
I remember that really. And then we went to the Flick, which was an ice cream parlor coffee shop afterwards.
Did you date Shelley?
Not for long.
See,
I didn't date
she-
anybody for long because they probably looked at me like what is this Hilaria? Who is this human being? And get him far away from me.
Shelley didn't invite you in for
I
Sanka?
did very well with the moms. I always charmed the moms.
Well,
But like I would go and I would take Shelley to a dance. My high school dance or the temple dance. And then I was so crazy, I would leave her standing by herself and go from click to click to click to make sure I was still in good standing.
No, you were anxious that you had to make him laugh. You had to sort of.
It was horrible. It was horrible.
So maybe the answer is The Alamo. But what's a movie now that you would take Stacy to? That you would take.
You know what
that
we
you would
love?
Take a date
Do you know
to?
what we
Yeah,
love?
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk did a movie called Nobody.
Oh yeah, it's good.
Okay. And so Bob Odenkirk is an action hero.
It's crazy that he's an action hero.
I
and
wrote
he's-
him a fan letter.
You wrote him a letter?
I wrote him a letter. I wrote Jelly Roll a letter just a little while ago. Dear Mr. Roll, I really like, you know.
So you see something you love and you want
And I
to reach
write a
out to
le-
that artist
I do.
and tell him. Did you know Bob Odenkirk?
I did not know him. But holy mackerel.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew of him, watched him.
Did you watch Breaking Bad or Better Call
Oh
Saul?
my
Better-
God, absolutely.
I think Breaking Bad was amazing, and I thought Better Call Saul was better.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just
yeah, same writers.
loved
And then Nobody. Now he's making Nobody too.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that. Yeah, nobody is good. Okay, imagine there's a vast warehouse where all the movie props in the history of films are stored. Okay, and you're a thief, and you're in that warehouse.
Ooh.
What do you steal?
What am I stealing?
One thing or two things. Whatever
Well, you
want.
know what? I'm a collector. During COVID, I found that I had 27 boxes of memorabilia that I had no idea I had. But what is the prop that I would steal? Wow. I don't have an answer to that question, although that is a great question.
Something of Spencer Tracy's, something of James Dean's.
Don't know.
Yeah.
James Dean's jacket in Rebel Without a Cause.
Which again is it's a little precursor to Fonzie's jacket, of course. Yeah, right.
He was hanging, the poster of James Dean was in my closet in my apartment when I played the Fonz.
Is that right?
Yeah. On set.
For a little inspiration,
Yeah.
a little.
Oh my God, can you imagine meeting him? Oh my Lord. The complexity in his brain must have been too much to bear.
At such an early age. Right, yeah, right away. What was your mother's favorite movie? Does that even resonate at all as a question?
No, because I never asked my parents a question, because that would have meant that I had to engage with them.
And that never ended well.
Never. I would walk out of my apartment. I would walk out of my room in our apartment in New York City. I was just happy to greet the day, and I would be assaulted by one or two of my parents
with questions.
For no reason. They would be yelling and screaming. I would go back into my room and have to calm down to get back to zero. I listened to opera or some big music in order to get over what had just happened, and all I did was walk out of my room.
Did you must have gotten angry at your kids as a
No,
parent.
I made sure that I was different as a parent with my children. Now, I got angry, but only if they lied or they didn't really try. But otherwise, I was pretty patient. I'm patient with my grandchildren.
I bet you're a great grandfather. Your mother's name's Ilsa.
Her name was Ilsa Anna Marie.
But Ilsa, like Ilsa Lund, like Ingrid Bergman in Casablanca. That's why I thought your mother would have a
No, she was nothing like that. My mother would bake a 7-layer German chocolate cake that got no higher than a layer.
So what about your dad? Favorite movie? Anything? Did he like anything?
I have no idea. He was funny with his friends.
So you knew from his friends that
he wanted me to take over the family business. I have a joke, an old joke. He would say, "Why do you think I brought the business over here?" I said, "Besides being chased by the Nazis, Dad, was there like a bigger reason than that? Let me know."
What movie makes you cry without fail?
So many, but I love, and we just saw it, Love Actually.
That's so great.
I was thinking of writing Richard Curtis a letter.
Yeah, he's letter worthy, Richard.
And
Curtis.
say, One of my disappointments in my career is that I did not get to work with you because he makes such amazing movies.
I saw a little speech that he gave at the Oscar Wilde Awards given to sort of Irish Americans. And it was one of the great little 7-minute speeches I ever seen. It was so clever, so smart. Both Notting Hill and Love Actually.
Oh, my God.
And Notting Hill and what's the one I like more? Notting Hill and Four Weddings and a Funeral are
right.
2 movies that I just couldn't love more.
And Bill Nye
Bill
is
Nye.
great, isn't he?
Bill
great?
Nye's the best part of Love Actually.
Oh my
And
God!
And I cry at that moment with his manager when they're just together.
Unbelievable.
When he just shows up to be with him.
Oh
Yeah.
my God!
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
It's unbelievable. But there are so many other movies. I mean, I cry at everything.
Me too. What movie makes you laugh without fail?
Oh, movies. Les Compare, the Neighbors, the Out of Towners, with Alan Arkin and somebody.
The Out of Towners with Alan Arkin and Jack Lemmon? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Les Compare is one of the funniest movies I
don't think I know Les Compare.
Okay, it's a French director, Francis Weber.
All right, I'll check it out. I don't know.
His movies are really funny. He makes me crazy.
Well, Henry, I don't know what to say except I couldn't possibly enjoy talking to you more.
Oh, this was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Thanks for
Really, I'm so
inviting
happy
us
we were
into your
all
home.
here together.
Thanks for letting us meet your dogs.
You bet.
This was good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to watch Les Compères. I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. I can't even speak French phonetically. But if I'm honest, I'm going to watch Four Weddings and a Funeral first. I'm thrilled Henry is going to write one of his letters to Richard Curtis. I also hope many of you watch Night Shift from 1982, directed by Ron Howard and starring Henry and Michael Keaton, who I also love. Shelley Long is in it as well, and even a young, uncredited Kevin Costner. Enjoy. That's our show. Thanks for listening. You can find many of the movies we talked about on the streaming service Max. We made a list for you. It's in our show notes. James Kim produces and edits Talking Pictures. The show is booked by Noea Murphy, Susan Bisak, and Missy Burns-Halprin. Glenn Matullo mixes each episode. Production support from Phil Richards, Yaakov Friedman, Liz Winter, Nicole Hill, and Cameron Kell. Angela Carone is our executive producer. Special thanks to Michael Gluckstad, Allison Cohen, and Kenya Reyes from the Max Podcast team. I'm Ben Mankiewicz. See you next time.